Previously, we talked about the first of the two most famous works of Greek literature, the Iliad. This long poem told the story of a great war between Greece and Troy. This war lasted 10 years, but finally the Greeks won. The second of the two famous works is the Odyssey. This poem tells the story of one man's journey home after the war. The man's name was Odysseus, and his long journey home took another 10 years. On the journey he had many different adventures, and this is what the Odyssey is about. In fact, the word Odyssey in English now means a long and dangerous journey. People think that both the Odyssey and the Iliad were written by a man called Homer, maybe around the 8th century BC. The poems were not written down in a book, but were actually spoken by someone who had memorized them. They were memorized and passed down from generation to generation. The poems may also have had music being played while people listened to them. The hero of the poem, Odysseus, was king of a place called Ithaca. He tries to get home after the war, but he's stopped from doing this by all kinds of adventures and challenges. It eventually takes him 10 years to get back. But because he's been away so long, people at home think he must be dead. His wife is still the queen of Ithaca, and because everyone thinks Odysseus is dead, lots of other men come to try and marry her so that they can become the new king. 100 men come and live in Odysseus' house while he's away, and the men try to win the love of his wife. However, Odysseus is still alive and struggling to get back home. He needs to get back as soon as possible, or he'll lose his wife and his kingdom. The main part of the Odyssey is telling the story of all the adventures he has. Below are some of the most famous. After the war, Odysseus and his men are sailing home, but suddenly their ship sails into a large storm. This storm blows the ship far away, to an island with strange people on. These people are not bad, they're not hostile, but Odysseus and his men get trapped there for another reason. The people on the island eat a plant that makes you stop caring about anything. It makes you lose all memory and ambition. You just want to stay there, doing nothing, just eating the plant. But finally, Odysseus manages to rescue his men, and they escape to continue their journey. Later, they discover an island with giants on. These giants are huge people with one eye in the middle of their head. One of these giants catches Odysseus' men and keeps them in his cave. The giant starts to eat the men, but Odysseus manages to rescue them again. He stabs the giant in the eye and blinds it. The men sneak out by hiding under some sheep. Odysseus and his men manage to escape danger again. They then pass the land of another strange people. These people were part woman, part bird, and they sang songs to attract men to their island, to lure men to their death. These songs were so beautiful and irresistible that if men heard the song, they couldn't escape. Men would jump off their ships and start swimming to the island, and they'd then be killed by the waves and the rocks. So Odysseus told his men to fill their ears with wax so that they couldn't hear the song. But Odysseus himself wanted to hear it. He wanted to hear it and escape alive. So he made his men take some rope and tie him to the mast of the ship. They then sailed past the island, and Odysseus heard the song but couldn't go to the island. Later they came across a huge sea monster which killed some more of his men. Eventually, after many similar adventures, all of his men were killed, and Odysseus was the last person left alive. After many years, 10 for the war and 10 for his journey back, he finally managed to get back home. But because he'd been away so long, nobody recognized him, including his wife. To prove that he really was her husband, they organised a competition. This was an archery competition, and the winner had to do something amazing, something that the wife knew only Odysseus could do. His wife said that she'd marry the man who won the competition, so all the men trying to marry her and become king also took part. All the men failed the competition, and Odysseus won. He then fought off the other men, and finally managed to get back his wife.